Hello dear students, myself Professor S.B. Vendigiri, Department of Economics, taking online classes for PUC first year commerce students. Dear students, today let us understand about the chapter 3, that is economic reforms. Before going to the part of economic reforms, we have to understand the background of the economic reforms in India. What was happened immediately after independence, and what was the position of economic development of the country in India. We have to understand to go through the economic reforms. If we are having a look on background of the economic reforms in India, India since independence followed mixed economy framework like capitalistic and socialistic pattern of society. Capitalistic means when the whole and sole activities are given in the hands of private entrepreneurs, and minimization of role of government. And socialistic pattern of society on the other hand defined as when the government is taking the entire responsibility, and the role of government is very much important in such kind of society, and everything is controlled, managed by government. That is called as socialistic pattern of society. But it resulted in establishment of various rules, laws and regulations. When we are following mixed economy like capitalistic and socialistic pattern, we have to abide, we have to follow certain rules and regulations. Every individual is to work under rules and regulations. When the rules and regulations and laws are very strong, there is a possibility of decrease in the efficiency of the human being. Rules and regulations in the sense we are controlling his efficiency. So because of that, mixed economy framework has become a hindrance for the economic development of the country. And India started its development path from near stagnation. Immediately after independence, Government of India has no source to increase the economic development of the country. It has started its economic activities from zero level. Zero level in the sense we don't have anything with us to bring balance in economic growth and development of the country. And the origin of the financial crisis traced out from inefficient management. Why there was a financial crisis in India? It is because inefficiency in the management. When the management is become inefficient in the sense if the management workers, if the workers of the different sectors are not showing interest in their work, if they are waiting for only bill and bell, it means if they are waiting for only hourly bill and monthly bill, and if they are waiting for only three fees like payment, promotion and pension, there is no possibility of the entire development of the country. So that is called inefficiency in management. We also know that for implementing policies and its general administration, the government generates funds. For example, for implementation of administration and to run the government, to run the activities, we need to have funds. Funds in case of in terms of taxes and other source of income, for example. Especially India is also generating funds from taxes and public sector. When the expenditure is more than revenue, it borrows funds from banks and general public. In the every year budget, government is declaring its amount of revenue and amount of expenditure for the academic year. If the public revenue is less than its public expenditure, government is to borrow funds from banks and financial institutions, and if it is not sufficient, government is going down to the general public to bring balance in deficit financing. Deficit finance in the sense when the public expenditure is more than its public revenue, there is a possibility of deficit financing. And by these two way, whatever amount of money is collected If it is also not sufficient, again government is stretching hands to foreign countries, for example, or else abroad, and government is start collecting funds from different countries. Especially what happened in 1980s, government of India borrowed $7 billion of funds from external source. These funds released from International Monetary Fund and International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IMF and IBRD. These two are very much important objective questions in the examination for abbreviation. They may ask expand IMF or else IBRD. For that, what to write? International Monetary Fund for IMF and International Bank for Reconstruction and Development for IBRD. IBRD is nothing but World Bank. These two international financial institutions are providing funds to the entire world on certain conditions. When IMF and IBRD provided funds to India, they have put certain conditions. They have put forth some conditions like liberalizing the economy and opening up the economy by removing restrictions on the private sector. Liberalizing means giving greater freedom to the economic agents. You have to give more freedom for private sectors. That is called as liberalization. And opening up the economy means earlier in pre-90s economy was closed economy. Now it is open economy. We have to open economy means we have to have good relations with other countries in case of trading activities, and we have to remove all restrictions. Whatever restrictions were there, like rules and regulations and laws, we have to remove all those restrictions for private sectors. Then only private sectors are coming forward to invest more amount of money in those areas where capital is lacking, where investment is lacking. And also, in addition to this, we have to minimize the role of government. Government should not interfere in the activities of private entrepreneurs. If these things are possible, if these things are followed by a debtor country, the creditor countries like developed countries, USA for example, France, Japan, Brazil and Norway, these developed countries can provide huge amount of money to such kind of developing countries. So likewise, IMF and IBRD, these two international financial institutions provided huge amount of money only on these conditions. It is the purpose behind introduction of economic reforms in India. I hope you understood, my dear students, why economic reforms in India. Because of these economic problems, economic crisis before 1991. In addition to these, there were another crisis. Those crises were broadly classified into two categories. Some were internal and some others were external. Due to these internal and external factors like alarming rate of increase in the price, inflation in the economy and Gulf War, these are some internal and external factors hindered the economic position of the country before 1991. So because of that, there was a need of economic reforms immediately after independence. Now coming to the next aspect of the same topic, that is introduction of new economic policy. I think we understood about the economic reforms. Economic reforms means what? It is a process of bringing positive results. It is an economic process which brings the positive results at the end of the day. That is called as economic reforms. So, new economic policy is a part and parcel of economic reforms. This new economic policy introduced in the year 1991. The NEP introduced on 24th of July 1991 by former Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and Finance Minister Manmohan Singh. These two are the chief architects of introduction of new economic policy 1991. They may ask in the examination for a 2 marks question or else 1 mark question. Who has introduced the NEP policy 1991? For that you have to write The former Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao and Finance Minister Manmohan Singh introduced this new economic policy in India. New economic policy is an important milestone in the history of Indian economy. After independence, it has a broader step. It was a broader step taken by the government immediately after independence in financial sector. Especially financial sector was become very poor. To implement that particular sector, Government of India started new economic policy. And it's a revolutionary step taken by the government to bring drastic change, immediate changes in the financial sector. To create more competitive environment and removing the restrictions on entry of new firms are the basic, for example, reasons behind introduction of new economic reforms or else new economic policy 1991. Here, competitive environment in the sense we have to create competition amongst different sellers, different producers. When different producers are able to compete with each other, there we can expect quality of the product, we can expect huge amount of exports, and also we can minimize the imports. So, competitive environment is a very much important step to increase the economic development of the country and to look at the broader concept in growth and development of the country. And on the other hand, removing the restrictions on entry of new firms. We have to control the unnecessary entry of new firms in the market. While entering the market, they have to have certain parameters. If they are not fulfilling those parameters, there is no entry for new firms in the market. These two steps were taken in the introduction of new economic policy 1991. Dear students, this economic policy 1991 has two broad classifications. The first classification of economic policy 1991 is stabilization measures. Stabilization measures, you have to understand this particular part to go through in detail about a new economic policy. If you are understanding these two, you can easily catch this particular topic. Here, stabilization measure in the sense these are the short-term measures to correct some of the weaknesses in the balance of payments. Whatever weaknesses, whatever problems were there in the balance of payments, to correct that, to overcome the difficulties of imbalances in the payments, there is a necessity of stabilization measures, and it is shorter measure. We are not supposed to continue this measure for a long time. If you are continuing the same measure for a long time, again it will disturb the entire financial process of the economy. So as a shorter measure, we can use it as an instrument to bring immediate changes in the balance of payments and bringing down the inflation. Here, balance of payments in the sense it is the difference between exports and imports of visible and invisible items of a particular country. It's a financial transaction of a particular country during a year, for example. That is called as balance of payments. And inflation, on the other hand, defined as it is nothing but the deliberate increase in the general price level. The continuous increase in the general price level is called as inflation. Here, sudden increase in the price is not called as inflation. The continuous simultaneous increase in the general price level is called as inflation. If there is a continuous increase in the price, it becomes a economic crisis, it becomes economic disturbance, and most of the people are suffering a lot to satisfy their different human wants. They have to pay more amount of money to purchase less amount of goods and services. It is also known as more money chasing to the few goods. It means what? When the supply of money in the hands of individual increases, there is an increase in the demand for goods and services. When the supply of money in the hands of common people like you and me increase, we are ready to pay any price for goods and services in the market. That is called as inflation. Coming to the second broad classification of new economic policy in 1991, that is structural measures. It is the long-term measure to improve the efficiency of the economy and increasing its international competitiveness. To increase the efficiency of the economy before 1991 and immediately after independence and before independence, India's economic position was not efficient. Economy was completely inefficient because of several problems and increasing its international competitiveness. By having good relations with other countries with the help of international trade, we have to increase the competitive strength amongst the producers by removing barriers. The competitive strength of the producers increase only when there is a removal of different barriers. Barriers in the sense what I said, restrictions like rules, regulations, laws. When we are completely removing all these barriers, there is a possibility of increasing the international competitiveness. So, this is all about the introduction of new economic policy. New economic policy has three important features. Out of it, first one is liberalization. Liberalization is the first feature of NEP, and the second one is privatization, third one is globalization, that is called LPG. They may ask in the examination for objective question again, expand LPG. LPG in the sense liberalization, privatization and globalization. Now let us have a look on the first one. First feature of NEP, that is liberalization. Liberalization means giving greater freedom to economic agents to take their own decisions and minimizing the role of government. It means what? Opening up the economy and giving more freedom to private entrepreneurs and minimizing the role of government. When the government is reducing its role in the activities of private entrepreneurs, and when the entrepreneurs are taking their own decisions, independent decisions, they come forward and invest huge amount of money in industrial sector. The purpose behind liberalization is removing all restrictions and inviting FDI, inviting huge amount of investment for development of industries. You know why? India is a labor-oriented country. We are facing a capital and investment problem right from beginning. To fulfill the lack of capital formation problem, there is a need of liberalization. With this, we shall stop today's discussion. Remaining part we shall discuss in the next online class. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you very much.